The book of Jasher, chapter 15. In that year there was a heavy famine throughout the land of Canaan, and the inhabitants of the land could not remain on account of the famine, for it was very severe. Abram and all belonging to him rose and went down to Egypt on account of the famine. And when they were at the brook Mitzrayim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of the road. Abram and Sarai were walking at the border of the brook Mitzrayim. And Abram beheld his wife Sarai, that she was very beautiful. And Abram said to his wife Sarai, Since God has created you with such a beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Egyptians, that they will kill me and take you away, for the fear of God is not in these places. Certainly then you shall do this. Say you are my sister to all that may ask you, in order that it may be well with me, and that we may live and not be put to death. And Abram commanded the same to all those that came with him to Egypt on account of the famine. Also his nephew Lot he commanded, saying, If the Egyptians ask you concerning Sarai, say she is the sister of Abram. And yet, with all these orders, Abram did not put confidence in them. But he took Sarai and placed her in a chest and concealed it among the vessels. For Abram was greatly concerned about Sarai on account of the wickedness of the Egyptians. Abram and all belonging to him rose up from the brook Mitzrayim and came to Egypt, and they had scarcely entered the gates of the city when the guards stood up to them, saying, Give tithe to the king from what you have, and then you may come into town. Abram and those that were with him did so. Abram and the people that were with him came to Egypt, and they brought the chest in, which Sarai was concealed, and the Egyptians saw the chest. And the king's servants approached Abram, saying, What have you here in this chest which we have not seen? Now open the chest and give tithe to the king of all that it contains. Abram said, This chest I will not open, but all you demand on it I will give. And Pharaoh's officers answered Abram, saying, It is a chest of precious stones. Give us the 10th of its value. Abram said, All that you desire I will give, but you must not open the chest. And the king's officers pressed Abram. They reached the chest and opened it with force, and they saw a beautiful woman was in the chest. When the officers of the king saw Sarai, they were struck with admiration at her beauty, and all the princes and servants of Pharaoh assembled to see Sarai, for she was very beautiful. The king's officers ran and told Pharaoh all that they had seen, and they praised Sarai to the king. Pharaoh ordered her to be brought, and the woman came before the king. Pharaoh observed Sarai, and she pleased him greatly, and he was struck with her beauty. The king rejoiced greatly on her account, and made presents to those who brought him the news concerning her. The woman was then brought to Pharaoh's house, and Abram grieved on account of his wife. He prayed to the Lord to deliver her from the hands of the Pharaoh. And Sarai also prayed at that time, and said, O Lord God, you did tell my lord Abram to go from his land and from his father's house to the land of Canaan, and you did promise to do well with him if he would perform your commands. Now behold, we have done that which you commanded us. We left our land and our families, and we went to a strange land, to a people whom we have not known before. We came to this land to avoid the famine, and this evil accident has befallen me. Now therefore, O Lord God, deliver us and save us from the hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of your mercy. The Lord listened to the voice of Sarai, and the Lord sent an angel to deliver Sarai from the power of Pharaoh. The king came and sat before Sarai, and behold, an angel of the Lord was standing over them, and he appeared to Sarai and said to her, Do not fear, for the Lord has heard your prayer. The king approached Sarai and said to her, What is that man to you who brought you here? And she said, He is my brother. The king said, It is incumbent on us to make him great, to elevate him, and to do to him all the good which you shall command us. At that time the king sent to Abram silver and gold and precious stones in abundance, together with cattle, men servants, and maidservants. And the king ordered Abram to be brought, and he sat in the court of the king's house, and the king greatly exalted Abram on that night. The king approached to speak to Sarai, and he reached out his hand to touch her when the angel struck him heavily. He was terrified, and he refrained from reaching to her. And when the king came near to Sarai, the angel struck him to the ground, and acted thus to him the whole night, and the king was terrified. The angel on that night struck heavily all the servants of the king, and his whole household on account of Sarai, and there was a great lamentation that night among the people of Pharaoh's house. And Pharaoh seeing the evil that befell him, said, "Certainly on account of this woman has this thing happened to me." And he removed himself at some distance from her and spoke pleasing words to her. The king said to Sarai, "Tell me, I pray you, concerning the man with whom you came here." And Sarai said, "This man is my husband, and I said to you that he was my brother, for I was afraid that you would put him to death through wickedness." And the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the angel of the Lord ceased from him and his household. Pharaoh knew that he was smitten on account of Sarai, and the king was greatly astonished at this. In the morning the king called for Abram and said to him, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' since I wanted to take her as a wife, and this heavy plague has therefore come on me and my household? Now therefore here is your wife, take her and go from our land, so we don't all die on her account." And Pharaoh took more cattle, men servants, and maidservants, and silver and gold to give to Abram. And he returned to him Sarai his wife. And the king took a maiden whom he had by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. The king said to his daughter, "It is better for you, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house than to be mistress in my house, after we have seen the evil that came upon us on account of this woman." Abram arose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Egypt, and Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. And Abram returned to the land of Canaan, to the place where he had made the altar, where he had at first pitched his tent. Genesis 12:10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, "Behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, 'This is his wife,' and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee." And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commanded her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he asses, and men servants, and maid servants, and she asses, and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, 'She is my sister,' so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore behold thy wife, take her, and go thy way." And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. There is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. I think every story in the Bible has at least a double entendre. Stories are played over and over and over again. I read both here, so you can see the story is quite biblical, even if you don't take account of the book of Jasher's telling. Abram, later known as Abraham, lied, but the plagues fell on Pharaoh. Abram was not trusting of our Father to keep him alive, even though he had a covenant with him to have descendants as many as the stars in the sky. He still didn't trust our Father to keep him alive, so he lied. He doesn't get plagued, Pharaoh does. Abram gets sent back home with more riches than ever before, back to the altar he had built for his first love. This is the story of us. We sometimes don't trust in him to take care of our needs. People spend so much time working to save extra money just in case a disaster happens because they don't feel like they will be protected otherwise. They doubt, and they have sin. The plagues don't fall on them, they fall on Jesus who died for us. He took the curses upon himself and bore the plague of death for us. Now we are free, and we can come back to our first love, our Father, with more riches than we had to begin with, because he loves us that much.